The quantum drives of the TSV Hyperion hummed with barely contained power as the massive warship cut through the darkness of uncharted space. At 12 kilometers long, the vessel represented the pinnacle of human engineering, a testament to 3 centuries of technological evolution forced by necessity and survival. Commander Ofelia Martinez stood at the bridge's observation window, her bronze skin bathed in the soft blue glow of the ship's holographic displays. The silver streaks in her black hair caught the light as she studied the distant stars, each one a potential harbor for both wonders and threats. 30 years of military service had taught her that in space, they were often the same thing. "Commander," Lieutenant Raj Patel's voice broke through her contemplation. "Multiple contacts detected at bearing 340. Energy signatures suggest warships." His dark eyes remained fixed on the sensor displays, cybernetic implants processing data faster than any unaugmented human could. Ophelia moved to his station with practiced grace. Analysis? 8 vessels, cruiser-class configuration. Their energy signatures match known Zakarian designs. They're running hot, weapons charged and shields active. The Zakarians. The aggressive species had been expanding their territory for decades, consuming smaller civilizations in their wake. This was the first time they'd encountered humanity, though. A slight smile touched Ophelia's lips. They had no idea what they were about to face. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka reported, her augmented vocal cords giving her voice an almost musical quality. "Standard intimidation protocol. Demanding immediate surrender and submission to the Greater Zakarian Imperium." Ophelia straightened her midnight blue uniform. "Put them on screen. Let's show them how humanity handles first contact these days." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a Zakarian bridge crew. Their commander, a towering figure with iridescent scales and 4 arms, looked down at Ophelia with obvious disdain. Their species' natural bioluminescence cast an eerie green glow across the screen. "This is Supreme Warmaster Ksik of the Zakarian Imperial Fleet," the alien announced, mandibles clicking in what their database suggested was a sign of aggression. "Your vessel has entered sovereign Zakarian space. Submit to boarding and inspection, or be destroyed." Ophelia met his compound eyes without flinching. "This is Commander Ofelia Martinez of the Terran ship vessel Hyperion. We recognize no such sovereignty in neutral space. Stand down your weapons, and we can discuss peaceful contact." The Zakarians' bioluminescent patches flared with anger. "You dare? One primitive vessel against 8 of our finest warships? Your arrogance will be your undoing." "Tactical," Ophelia called out, not breaking eye contact with the alien commander. "Show them our sensor logs." Lieutenant Commander Nathan Drake, his dark skin contrasting with the white neural interface cables at his temples, executed the command with a thought. "Sending data now, Commander." On the shared view screen, tactical readouts appeared showing the exact moment the Hyperion had detected their fleet, hours before they'd spotted the Earth vessel. It also displayed a complete analysis of their weapon systems, shield configurations, and vulnerable points. "You see, Warmaster," Ophelia said softly, "we could have destroyed your fleet the moment we detected you. Instead, we chose to talk. That choice remains available to you." The Zakarian's mandibles twitched as his subordinates hurriedly confirmed the data. Their own sensors were finally beginning to grasp the true scale of the Hyperion's capabilities. The quantum weaponry. The dimensional shields. Technology centuries beyond their own. "Impossible," Ksik hissed. "No species in known space possesses such advancement." "You are lying, using tricks." "Sir," one of his officers interrupted, fear evident in their clicking speech. "Energy readings from their vessel, they're unlike anything in our database. Their power output alone exceeds our entire fleet combined." Ophelia let them process this information. Humanity had learned patience in their centuries of space travel. They'd also learned when to show strength. Your species isn't the first to underestimate humanity, War Master. Those who survived learned to regret it. What happens next is your choice. Before Ksik could respond, alarms blared across both bridges. Lieutenant Patel's hands flew across his console. Commander. Spatial distortion detected. Something massive is shifting into our spacetime. Multiple signatures, Drake added, his augments processing combat scenarios. These aren't Sicarian. Energy patterns suggest ancient tech. Very ancient. As both human and Sicarian crews watched, space itself seemed to tear open. Through the rift emerged massive crystalline structures, each one larger than the Hyperion. Their surfaces pulsed with otherworldly energy, and weapon systems unlike anything either species had encountered began powering up. Ophelia's expression remained calm, but her mind raced with possibilities. Sometimes the universe had a way of forcing cooperation. War Master, she said, addressing the suddenly less hostile Sicarian, I believe we both have a new situation to address. Perhaps we should discuss this as equals? The ancient vessels moved into attack formation, their intentions becoming clear. Humanity's first contact with the Sicarians was about to become significantly more complicated, and infinitely more interesting. The crystalline vessels loomed in space like frozen lightning, their ancient surfaces refracting starlight in impossible patterns. Aboard the Hyperion's bridge, Commander Ophelia Martinez watched as War Master Ksik's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of intense calculation, according to their xenobiology database. Those designs, Tactical Officer Drake muttered, neural interfaces pulsing with data. They match the artifacts we found in the Arcturus sector. The ones that were millions of years old. Your species has encountered these before? Ksik demanded, his earlier hostility replaced by wary interest. The massive alien's bioluminescent patches had shifted from aggressive red to a more cautious blue. We've found their ruins, Ophelia replied carefully. The precursors, we called them. They vanished long before any of our species achieved spaceflight. But they never left anything operational. Until now. The ancient ships moved with impossible grace, their crystalline forms rearranging themselves like liquid geometry. Energy readings from their hulls defied conventional physics. Commander. Lieutenant Patel's voice carried an edge of urgency. They're powering up something big. Energy signature unlike anything we've ever seen. Ophelia made a split-second decision. War Master, my tactical officer is transmitting shield harmonics to your vessels. Adjust your frequencies to match. Whatever those ships are about to do, we'll have a better chance together. Ksik's compound eyes studied her for a moment. Pride warred with survival instinct across his alien features. You would share military technology with us? After we threatened you? I would survive, Ophelia corrected. Your species isn't the first to point weapons at humanity, War Master. You won't be the last. But right now, we face something that threatens us both. The ancient vessels fired. Beams of pure white energy lanced out, wielding power that could have cracked a planet. The Hyperion's dimensional shields flared brilliant blue, while the Sicarian ship's newly adjusted shields held, barely. Analysis. Ophelia commanded, gripping her chair as the ship shuddered. Their weapons, Drake reported, they're not trying to destroy us. These are scanning beams. Incredibly powerful ones, but... His eyes widened behind his neural interface. They're reading everything. Our technology, our biology, our quantum signatures. They're studying us. On the shared view screen, the crystalline ships began transmitting. Not in any known language, but in pure mathematical concepts. The ship's AI struggled to interpret. It's some kind of test, Communications Officer Tanaka announced, her augmented voice tight with concentration. They're measuring our civilizations. Our advancement. Our potential. Another blast rocked both fleets. This time, two of the Zakarian ships' shields failed. Their hulls began to crystallize, the ancient energy rewriting their very structure. Hyperion tactical. Ophelia's voice cut through the chaos. Target the crystallization points with quantum torpedoes. Full spread. War Master, have your remaining ships focus conventional fire on the same coordinates. We need to overload their transformation process. The space between the fleets erupted in a dance of energies. Human quantum weapons, designed to tear holes in reality itself, met Zakarian plasma cannons in a devastating barrage. The ancient vessel's crystalline surfaces absorbed the first hits, but the combined assault proved too much for even their advanced technology. It's working. Drake called out. Their transformation fields are destabilizing. But Commander, we're picking up transmission fragments. They're not just scanning us. They're judging us. Judging? X's mandibles clattered. For what purpose? The answer came in another burst of mathematical language, this time clearer. Through their shared channels, both human and Zakarian crews watched as the ancient ships projected images, civilizations rising, falling, being uplifted, or being erased. The precursors hadn't vanished, they'd become gardeners of sapient life, testing species they encountered for worthiness. They want to know if we deserve to exist, Ophelia realized. If we're advanced enough. Stable enough. She turned to the Zakarian commander. War Master, I suggest we show them something they haven't seen before. What do you propose, human? Two species, recent enemies, choosing to cooperate rather than fall. Fighting together rather than against each other. Perhaps that's a test result they haven't encountered in their millions of years of watching. As if in response to her words, the ancient vessels launched another attack. This time, their energy beams attempted to rewrite the quantum structure of space itself around the combined fleet. What followed would be remembered in both human and Zakarian history as the Dance of Lights. The Hyperion's quantum weapons created temporary pockets of alternative spacetime, while Zakarian ships used these distortions to launch devastating conventional attacks through impossible angles. Human tactical officers linked their neural interfaces with Zakarian weapons controllers, combining technologies and strategies that had never been meant to work together. The ancient vessel's attacks grew more intense, but with each blast, the impossible alliance adapted. Human dimensional shields protecting Zakarian ships. Zakarian energy weapons firing through human quantum corridors. Two species, moments ago ready to destroy each other, moving in perfect concert against a common threat. Finally, the crystalline ships ceased their attack. Their surfaces shifted one last time, forming patterns that both crews suddenly understood: approval. They had passed the test not through individual strength, but through the ability to overcome differences in the face of a greater challenge. As the ancient vessels prepared to depart, they left one final transmission. Not in mathematics this time, but in clearly translated words: growth continues. The garden flourishes. New paths emerge. In the silence that followed their departure, human and Zakarian crews looked at each other with new understanding. The universe had just become much larger, and much stranger, for both species. Commander Martinez, War Master Xic said formally, his bioluminescence now pulsing in patterns of respect. Perhaps we should discuss that peaceful contact you mentioned earlier. Ophelia allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes the best diplomatic solutions came from the most unexpected situations. I believe we should, War Master. I believe we should. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Hyperion hummed with tension as holographic displays showed the spread of crystallization across 3 distant solar systems. 2 weeks had passed since the encounter with the precursor vessels, and what had started as an isolated incident had become a growing crisis. Commander Ophelia Martinez studied the data beside War Master Xic, their unlikely alliance forged in the heat of battle and now tested by a greater challenge. The Zakarian leader's scales had taken on a dull gray tone, a sign of deep concern. "The pattern is deliberate," Lieutenant Patel reported, his cybernetic interfaces processing vast streams of data. "Each crystallization event is precisely calculated. They're creating something, not just transforming space." "A network," Ophelia murmured. "But for what purpose?" The answer came from an unexpected source. First speaker Thex of the Zakarian Science Council, a willowy figure whose bioluminescent patterns rippled with intellectual excitement, stepped forward. "We found something in our ancient archives. Records of a similar event, from before our species achieved spaceflight." The holographic display shifted, showing archaeological data. Ancient Zakarian cave paintings depicted crystalline structures reaching toward the stars, while mathematical formulae along the edges attempted to describe dimensional distortions. "Our ancestors called it the Great Filter," Thex explained, mandibles clicking softly. "A test, yes, but also a transformation. The precursors weren't just judging us, they were preparing us." "Preparing us for what?" Tactical Officer Drake asked, his neural interfaces pulsing with increased activity. Before Thex could respond, alarms blared across the Hyperion. Lieutenant Tanaka's augmented voice cut through the chaos. "Commander. Quantum distortion detected. Massive scale, unlike anything we've seen before." The view screen showed it, a tear in spacetime larger than a solar system. Through it came not crystalline ships, but something organic. Tentacles of pure darkness, each one large enough to wrap around a planet, reached through the rift. "The Devourers," Thex whispered, bioluminescence dimming in terror. "The threat the precursors fought. The reason they became what they are." Understanding dawned on Ophelia. "The crystallization, it's not just a test. It's preparation. They're building a defense network against that." She gestured at the cosmic horror emerging from the rift. Warmaster Xix's combat instincts took over. "Our worlds are defenseless against such a thing. Even your quantum weapons might not be enough," Ophelia finished. "But combined with the precursor's crystalline technology." She turned to her crew. "Tanaka, broadcast on all frequencies, human and Zakarian. Drake, begin quantum calculations for dimensional shift. Patel, I need everything we have on the crystallization pattern." "What are you planning, Commander?" Xix asked, mandibles twitching with curiosity. "The precursors didn't just test us, Warmaster. They gave us tools. The crystalline transformations, they're not weapons. They're keys." She pointed to specific points in the holographic display. "Look at the pattern. It's not random. It's a lattice, waiting to be activated." Understanding flickered across Xix's alien features. "A trap. They're building a trap, using our space as the snare." "Exactly. But it needs both of us to spring it. Human quantum technology to understand it, Zakarian energy weapons to power it." Ophelia's eyes gleamed with determination. "The precursors didn't choose our alliance by accident. They chose us because together, we have exactly what's needed." The dark tendrils reached further into normal space, reality warping around them. Stars began to dim as the cosmic horror drew their energy into itself. "Time for a choice, Warmaster," Ophelia said quietly. "Trust each other completely, or watch everything we know end." The precursors tested our ability to cooperate under pressure. Now we find out if we learned their lesson well enough. Xix's bioluminescence shifted to a pattern the humans had never seen before, one that spoke of absolute commitment. "The Zakarian fleet awaits your command, Commander Martinez. Let us show these devourers why the precursors chose us." As both fleets moved into position around the crystalline lattice, Ophelia couldn't help but smile. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for threats from the stars. They'd built weapons that could tear reality apart, shields that could bend dimensions. But in the end, their greatest weapon turned out to be the ability to forge trust with former enemies. The Devourers reached toward the combined fleet, cosmic darkness promising oblivion. But this time, something waited in the light of distant stars. Something born of human ingenuity and Zakarian power, guided by the ancient wisdom of the precursors. The trap was set. The players were in position. And the real battle for survival was about to begin. Would you like me to continue with Part 4? The story is building toward the climactic battle and resolution. Space rippled with energy as the Hyperion's quantum drives reached full power. Around the massive human warship, the Zakarian fleet moved into precise formation, their ship's energy signatures harmonizing with the crystalline lattice that stretched across 3 solar systems. "All stations, report," Commander Ophelia Martinez ordered, her voice steady despite the cosmic horror that filled their view screens. "Quantum matrices aligned," Drake responded, neural interfaces glowing bright with strain. "Crystal resonance at 80% and climbing." "Zakarian fleet reports ready," Tanaka added, her augmented voice carrying undertones of tension. All ships synchronized with the lattice. The Devourer's tentacles of pure darkness reached toward them, each movement distorting the fabric of spacetime. Stars dimmed in their path, light itself seeming to recoil from their presence. "Fascinating," first speaker Thex observed from his position at the combined science station. "They're not just consuming energy, they're consuming probability itself. Each tendril erases possible futures, leaving only entropy. Then we'll give them a future they can't erase," Ophelia declared. "War Master, is your fleet ready?" Xix's image on the command screen showed him standing proud, bioluminescence pulsing with battle readiness. "We await your signal, Commander. My warriors are ready to die with honor." "Let's aim for victory instead of death," Ophelia smiled grimly. "All ships, execute pattern Omega. Just like we planned." The combined fleet sprang into action. Human quantum weapons fired, creating temporary bubbles of altered spacetime. Inside these bubbles, Zakarian energy beams struck the crystalline lattice at precisely calculated points. The ancient network began to hum with power. But the Devourers were not mindless beasts. A tendril of darkness lashed out, wrapping around one of the Zakarian cruisers. Reality screamed as the ship began to unravel, not just physically but causally, its very history being erased. "Quantum torpedoes, full spread," Ophelia commanded. "Target that temporal distortion." The Hyperion's weapon struck true, creating pockets of stable time around the stricken Zakarian vessel. Lieutenant Patel's hands flew across his console. "It's working. We can't save the ship, but we've preserved its crew in a quantum bubble." More tendrils struck, seeking to disrupt the crystalline lattice. But wherever they touched, they found human and Zakarian ships working in perfect concert. Quantum fields protected Zakarian vessels as they charged the lattice nodes. Zakarian energy weapons cleared paths through spacetime distortions for human ships to deliver their payloads. "Crystal resonance at 95%, Drake reported. "But Commander, we're seeing power fluctuations. The lattice wasn't designed to channel this much energy." Ophelia studied the tactical display, mind racing. They were so close, but the strain was showing. Human ships' quantum matrices were overloading. Zakarian vessels' power cores were reaching critical levels. Then she saw it. A pattern in the chaos. The Devourers weren't just attacking, they were gathering. Concentrating their mass at specific points in space. "They're trying to collapse it all at once," she realized. Thex. The archaeological records, did they show anything about the precursors' final battle? The Zakarian scientist's mandibles clicked rapidly as he accessed ancient data. Yes. The cave paintings, they didn't show just one lattice. They showed layers. Dimensions within dimensions. War Master. Ophelia called out. Order your ships to fall back to secondary positions. Drake, reconfigure quantum fields for dimensional overlay. We're not trying to trap them in our space. We're going to trap them between spaces, Xic finished, his compound eyes gleaming with understanding. Brilliant. All ships, execute retrograde maneuver Beta 9. The next few moments were a dance of precision and desperation. Human and Zakarian ships moved in perfect synchronization, their movements guided by calculations spanning quantum mechanics and ancient wisdom. The crystalline lattice hummed with power as it was pushed to configure in ways its precursor designers might never have imagined. The Devourers sensed the trap too late. Their tendrils of darkness tried to withdraw, but the combined fleet had positioned themselves perfectly. Quantum fields interlocked with crystal matrices, creating a cascade of dimensional barriers. Now! Ophelia commanded. All ships, full power to the lattice. Space itself seemed to fold. The crystalline network flared with impossible light, each node turning into a dimensional anchor point. The Devourers found themselves caught not in a single trap, but in layers of overlapping dimensional prisons. It's working! Drake exclaimed. Their quantum signature is being divided across multiple reality layers. They can't maintain coherence. On every screen, they watched as the cosmic horror began to fragment. Each piece was sealed in its own pocket of spacetime, prevented from reunifying by the crystalline barriers powered by two civilizations' combined technology. But victory came at a cost. Ships from both fleets had been lost. The survivors' power systems were nearly drained, and the dimensional stress had taken its toll on crews and vessels alike. As the last echoes of battle faded, Ophelia looked at her unlikely ally. War Master, I believe we have some rebuilding to do. Xic's bioluminescence had shifted to a pattern of deep respect. Indeed, Commander. And perhaps more than rebuilding. Our civilizations have achieved something unprecedented today. The question is, what do we do with that achievement? The crystalline lattice continued to shimmer in space, now permanently altered by its use as a weapon against cosmic horror. Like the alliance that had wielded it, it had become something entirely new, something that would change the future of both species forever. Would you like me to conclude with Part 5? We'll wrap up the story and show the lasting implications of this incredible battle. 3 months after the battle with the Devourers, the Hyperion's observation deck offered a stunning view of history in the making. Commander Ophelia Martinez watched as construction drones, both human and Zakarian, worked together to build the first joint defense station around the crystalline lattice. Remarkable how quickly things change, War Master Xic noted, his scales now bearing ceremonial markings that designated him as the first Zakarian ambassador to humanity. 3 months ago, I was ready to demand your surrender. And now we're building the future together, Ophelia smiled, noting how the Zakarians' bioluminescence had adopted more nuanced patterns since their prolonged contact with humans. The latest readings from the lattice? First speaker Thex emerged from his newly established research station, his slender form practically vibrating with excitement. Beyond our wildest expectations. The crystal matrix hasn't just maintained its dimensional barriers, it's evolving. Learning. The precursors didn't just give us a weapon, they gave us a key to understanding spacetime itself. Lieutenant Patel's holographic form materialized beside them, his consciousness now permanently merged with the Hyperion's quantum systems after the strain of the battle. The technological applications are staggering. We're already seeing improvements in our quantum drives based on the lattice principles. Travel times between systems could be reduced by factors of thousands. And our energy weapons have doubled in efficiency since incorporating human quantum mechanics, Xic added. The Council of Elders has officially renamed our expansion policy. We no longer seek to dominate, we seek to protect. Ophelia turned as Lieutenant Tanaka approached, her augmented voice carrying notes of both triumph and concern. "Commander, we're receiving transmissions from 17 previously unknown species. Word of our victory over the Devourers has spread. They're all requesting diplomatic contact." 17 new species, Ophelia mused. Each with their own technologies, their own perspectives. Their own potential contributions to what we're building here. "You believe the precursors planned this?" Xic asked, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Creating circumstances that would force our species to overcome our differences?" "They had millions of years to study life in this galaxy," Thex interjected. "Perhaps they understood something we're only beginning to grasp, that true advancement comes not from conflict, but from the combination of different viewpoints and technologies." The observation deck's displays lit up with new data as Drake's neural interfaces detected something significant. "Commander, the lattice. It's responding to our discussion. Look at these pattern formations." The crystalline structure that stretched across 3 solar systems was shifting, its patterns forming what looked like a vast neural network. As they watched, new connections formed, creating pathways between stars that had never existed before. "It's not just a defense system," Ophelia realized. "It's a foundation. A framework for something much larger." She turned to her unlikely friends and allies. "The precursors weren't just testing us or helping us fight the Devourers. They were preparing us to take their place. As guardians?" Xic's bioluminescence pulsed with the weight of responsibility. "As builders," Ophelia corrected. "They showed us that the greatest threats can only be overcome through cooperation. Now they've given us the tools to forge those connections across the galaxy." The station's quantum communications array lit up with incoming transmissions from both fleets. More crystalline structures had been detected forming in distant systems. The lattice was expanding, creating a network that would eventually span the galaxy. "We're going to need to expand our alliance," Xic noted, his compound eyes reflecting the starlight. 17 species is just the beginning. "Then we'd better get started," Ophelia smiled. "Humanity spent centuries preparing for threats from the stars. We built weapons, shields, and ships. But in the end, our greatest achievement wasn't surviving, it was learning how to help others survive too." As if in response to her words, the lattice pulsed with new energy. In that light, human and Zakarian stood together, no longer separated by their differences but united by their shared dedication to protecting and nurturing life among the stars. The Precursor's garden had new caretakers now. And under their watch, it would flourish in ways even its ancient creators might never have imagined. "Commander," Tanaka called out, her augmented voice carrying a note of awe. "We're detecting new quantum signatures. The 17 species, they're already beginning to adapt their technologies to interface with the lattice." "Then let's welcome them properly," Ophelia declared. "After all, we have a galaxy to rebuild." As the Hyperion prepared to meet the new arrivals, Ophelia reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had entered this region of space ready for war but had found something far more precious, the chance to be part of something greater than themselves. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun. And somewhere, perhaps, the Precursors were watching their garden grow in ways they had always hoped it would.